I recognized the child trafficking victim because my mother taught me the silent signals. The little girl at table 14 kept tapping her fork against her water glass in an odd pattern. 3 quick taps. Pause 2 slow taps. Pause repeat. Most servers would have found it annoying. I recognized it as a distress signal my mother had taught me when I was 9. I've been a waitress at Harvest Kitchen for 3 years, serving the usual mix of families, business lunches, and date nights. This table seemed ordinary at first glance. Parent a well-dressed man in his 40s with 2 children who appeared to be around 8 and 10. He called them his daughters, but something felt wrong from the moment they sat down. The man ordered for everyone without consulting the children. When the younger girl tried to speak, he squeezed her wrist until she winced. Both girls kept their eyes down, answering his questions with rehearsed-sounding yes sir and no sir responses. My mother was a social worker who specialized in trafficking cases. Pinkering up, she taught me subtle signs to watch for paired children who seem unusually afraid of adults, inconsistencies in family stories, physical indicators of control. Most people don't want to see these things, she'd tell me. They convince themselves to hear an innocent explanation. When I brought their drinks, I deliberately spilled a little water near the older girl. I am so sorry, I said, using the moment to make eye contact with her. The fear in her eyes was unmistakable. As I wiped up the spill, I whispered, "Are you okay?" She didn't respond, but her hand moved to her napkin, which she folded in half and then in quarters, penned another signal my mother had shown me, one used by flight attendants trained to recognize trafficking victims. My heart raced as I walked to the kitchen. I couldn't be certain, but everything matched the patterns my mother had described. The man's controlling behavior, the children's fear, the signals, the inconsistencies in their interactions. Texty my manager. Table 14. Something's wrong with those kids, not his daughters. Melissa, my manager, had hired me 3 years ago when I was escaping my own abusive relationship. She trusted my judgment. She casually walked by their table, refilled water glasses, and made small talk. When she returned, her face was grim. "The younger one has bruises on her wrists," she whispered. And when I asked where they're from, the man answered before she could speak. We called the non-emergency police line, explaining our concerns without creating a scene. The dispatcher said they'd send an officer for a welfare check. Meanwhile, I kept serving their table normally, looking for opportunities to gather information. When I brought extra napkins, I noticed the older girl had written something tiny on her placemat and covered it with her hand. As I cleared plates, I glimpsed the message, "ORP not eat." Officer Rivera arrived in uniform, walking directly to their table. I watched the man's face transform from confusion to anger to calculated charm as the officer explained he was conducting routine checks. "These are my daughters," the man insisted smoothly. "We're just having dinner before heading home to Cincinnati." "What are your daughters' names?" Officer Rivera asked casually. The man answered without hesitation, but when the officer asked the girls to tell him their birthdays, the man interrupted. "They're shy with strangers." "Sir, I'd like to speak with the girls privately for a moment," Officer Rivera said firmly. What followed was a blur of activity. The man attempted to leave with the children. Some officers appeared at the exits. The girls were separated from the man and taken to the manager's office. Within an hour, we learned the truth. The girls had been abducted 3 days earlier from a park in Tennessee. The man was not related to them. An Amber Alaraff had been issued, but with their hair newly dyed and wearing different clothes, few would have recognized them. Yesterday, the girl's mother came to the restaurant. She hugged me so tightly I could barely breathe. "The police said you noticed the tapping," she said through tears. "I taught my daughters that signal when they were little, just in case I never thought." She pressed something into my hand, bared a small angel pendant. "This was my grandmother's. She always said angels appear when we need them most." I don't feel like an angel. I just remembered what my mother taught me. Sometimes the difference between danger and safety is simply someone willing to notice what others ignore. The pendant now hangs from my rearview mirror every morning when I drive to work. It reminds me to really see the people I serve, per terre, because sometimes the most important thing we can offer isn't on the menu.